Welcome, my friends, and here we are on another Monday afternoon. Just a beautiful day in the city of Woo. The kids are all at the high school running around the track, and there's a lot of activity in the city these days. But we're here under the big oaks at Arlington Road, side of Horn Pond. Just great. And today's guest, like I promised now, last week, and the week before, and the week before that, and the week before that, the Joe Demers,
good to see you.
School committee guy, is going to come in here and talk a little bit about the school committee before we get on to this other stuff. So that way he don't have to listen to me yakking, and he can go home or go back to work or whatever. Joseph, you've been on the school committee how many months now? Been a year.
7 months now.
7 months.
7 months, yep.
You get to talk, they let you talk?
Yeah, they do. They do.
Do you listen?
And if they didn't let me talk, I would be speaking up anyhow.
Up and down?
Yeah.
You and I always thought that Miss Crowley had a little bit of an advantage because she must have heard all this stuff at her
kitchen table,
for,
right?
For all those years, you know what I mean? I tell her father that he laughed.
Hey, Ed,
oh, what's this?
I gotta cut you off. Today is your 300th episode of Happenings Around Woburn. So congratulations!
Yay, thank you very much. That's great.
I know, so we made a cake for you and we get to have it later after the show.
All right, that's good. Where are we going? Back up to the office to have cake and ice cream? Not ice cream.
Whatever you want, it's your day.
Jeez,
I don't know if that'll pass under the school nutrition stuff, Ed.
Yeah, but it'll pass under my nutrition. I'm a big chocolate guy, that's for sure.
All right,
well, thank you very
Ed.
much. Yeah, thank you.
You get a hat for it.
Oh, look at that, huh?
Jesus, I don't know about that. We got a hat, right. All right. Well,
this is what I don't want to look like Michael Dukakis with a helmet on here, you know?
Like I'm driving a tank.
There you go. The 300th episode, huh?
300th episode.
Wow.
That's a week. Jesus, that's a long time.
And you've only had me on twice?
Yeah, twice, yeah. But you weren't a candidate. You were a candidate. The thing about it is you were very fortunate. You won.
Yeah.
That was another. Usually we knock them off. We did a couple of restaurants and we closed them right up. That was for sure. But okay, so forget that. We don't need that. I thought that was the hat, for Christ's sake. We don't need this. This hurts my head. So the school committee, I'm pretty hard on the school committee.
Yep, I've noticed.
You've noticed.
I've noticed.
And the only reason I say that is because I'm so old. I remember when the school committees had power. They were very powerful.
Yeah, it was all the pre-1993 Education Reform Act.
Right. And so, like, when I graduated from high school, the school committee was it.
Yep.
That was the big. And all the important people in the city of Woburn were on the school committee.
Well, you know, back then they had the hiring prerogatives, the firing prerogatives. They could move money around a lot easier. And nowadays, a lot of the power is centered towards the superintendent, with the school committee being a policy developing group.
Yeah, that way I don't
but
like
also
that
a supervisory group.
Policy. What the heck is policy?
Well, there's a lot of policies changing out there, including, you know, behavioral and mental health stuff. I mean, that's why in our budget we included additional school adjustment counselor because the needs of the kids are changing. It's a lot different student population too. So a lot of these kids need. And
what, like you talking about, like the core? This core, MCAS is going out. The
well,
core.
We voted to remove MCAS to go with the Park exam and Common Core. Common Core was a plan developed by the National Governors Association that a lot of states are starting to adopt, and it's more standard driven. But it also, rather than teaching the kids to a test, we're having them take the information that they've learned and
put
analyze
common
it.
Sense into
exactly, and analyze it and tell us why did you get to this decision?
Answer.
How did you get to that answer?
All right.
And it forces these kids to use a lot more analytical thinking rather than just factual recall, like what happened on December 7th, 1941, in comparison to,
right now,
you know, tell us what the impact of that was on America.
The only question I had, these are the questions that come up. When you get old, see, this is the problem. I've seen all of this stuff change. They stay in the area. I said this to Dr. What's his name?
Wells?
No, the other guy, the education guy. Dr. Come on. The
Dr.
assistant
Reese.
superintendent. Yeah,
Dr. Reese,
Reese. Nice guy.
Yep.
Very nice
Great.
guy.
He's very
So
very well respected.
I said to him, look, you're in here trying to change all these things around. I said, in my own education and in my children's education, and now I see it in my grandchildren, they never stay with the program long enough to get the results.
Right. That's one of our major concerns with the Common Core of the park.
Yeah.
It was one of those things that it's coming down the pike anyhow, so we might as well get in front of it and have it implemented in Woburn and working in Woburn, so that when they really start using that as a measurement tool of the kids' educational skills, that we're at the forefront. Where a lot of other communities are saying no to it, and they're going to eventually, if it becomes a mandate, they're eventually going to have to go to it somehow. So I think Woburn's ahead of the curve when it comes to that.
Yeah. The other problem, I always had a problem with this, even in politics, was that...
Well, that's the key word.
The politics, yeah. I had a problem. A few years ago, or maybe 10, 15, I don't know how long ago, but I'm a guy that says, I don't care if you've been around for 100 years. I always said that this guy knows more than everybody else, education-wise, blah, blah, blah. But now as I get older, I'm saying, 2, 3, 4 years, couple of terms, whatever, get out, because
the irony behind what you just said, though, is that when administrations change, whether it's the governor's office or in the White House, there's a different set of priorities that come in.
Yep.
And they may have a different idea or a different specialist for education that says, this is the plan we should go to. So going back to what you said about nothing ever sticks, it's the changing of administrations, the changing of educational philosophies, the changing of fiscal philosophy that happens between a Republican or a Democrat in the corner office.
So you say, when you say administration, you're talking about like committee members or like the superintendent?
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the education philosophy of the state or the federal government that causes mandates down on the local school
In other
committees.
words, Frank Sargent's education guy is gone, and
now a new guy might come in. Or Governor Patrick's gone. Governor Patrick will be gone in January. Who the next governor is, they may have a different philosophy on how we're going to do education in Massachusetts. So it's difficult to prepare for it, but you roll with the punches, I guess, and I think we've done a pretty good job on that with the school committee and the school department.
Every once in a while, you read in the Globe, New York Times, or whatever paper you read, watch 60 Minutes. There's some woman in New York City, she's got lives in the 4th floor of a walk-up flat, and she teaches 20 kids, and they wear the khakis and blazers, and they all go to Providence College after they graduate from her school. And they say, the reporters in there say, how do you do that? And she says, blah, blah, blah. But nobody copies any of that stuff. Now, Kevin Collin, he wrote one a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple of months ago, about Revere. Revere High School was down, and the kid came from Haiti, and he couldn't even speak English. But now 4 years in Revere High, he's going off to Tufts or something.
Yeah.
To say, geez, how's that work? What I mean?
One of the major things that Woburn has experienced over the past 10 years is an influx of different types of nationalities, kids from different schools, kids from different school districts. I mean, we were at the Joyce the other night, and they have a hallway in there with a bunch of flags up on the wall, and each flag represents countries that children were born in that are now learning here.
Half the people wouldn't be able to name every country.
Based on the flag, nope. Luckily, they had a little card underneath there.
Yeah, that's good. It's just an interesting education. It's always been something. We had, when I was in school, it was Spot, Dick and Jane and Spot. That was it. So you had to learn how to do that. And then, 2 and 2 is 4, multiplication. Everything is memorization, all that kind of stuff. So now they get it wrong. The kids come along, they come out with I remember when the Shamrock School first opened, modern math. The kids come home with these books, say, this is modern math. How do you do this? I said, I don't have the slightest idea.
Well, I mean, I could just look at it. I graduated Woburn High in 2003.
Yeah.
And we're a completely different school district.
Imagine, huh?
In the sense of the type of education we have to provide, whether it's special ed, English language learners, or just growing communities where people are coming from other communities because they know Woburn's affordable, we have a great school system, we have a good special ed program.
Yep.
They come here, and they may not be as advanced along the educational process as our current students. So there's a lot of intervention that we need to do in that. And one important one, excuse me, was approved in the budget this year. We're getting reading interventionists. So what that's going to do is we're going to have part-time folks helping intervene on children that are struggling to read to their grade level. and then helping those kids up to help them catch up. So, because the number one problem with education in this country is the lack of a third grade reading proficiency by the time kids get to the next level.
Well, don't you think that's going to change now? Because you have a child now, and they, by the time they're 4 years old, they can count, they know their colors, they know everything. They're way ahead.
Well, that's why we've had this discussion before. I'm a huge fan of pre-kindergarten for every kid
Dr.
in
Reese
America.
was way, he's right up there too. He said, we got to get them in school.
Just
but
because
I mean,
you get them learning early,
Yep.
you get these kids learning early, there's nothing they can't do.
So now, when you say you change, if the philosophy changes, you know, that just screws things up. Does anybody ever say, let's let a guy go for 6 years or something, like a reading interventionist? Now, is that a college degree? Or something?
It would be somebody with a certified in teaching reading.
Right.
The MTEL exams, which are the Massachusetts way of, you have to pass those to become a teacher in Massachusetts.
Right.
It's the initial certification for a teacher. They have a reading specialist one that we'd look for. We'd look for maybe some retired teachers that would like to come back and work part-time as an interventionist in the elementary schools.
But when you know, you can have all these, this is how it gets so complicated for the ordinary dope like me, see? You guys are up there sitting talking about this stuff all the time, and you know, you get a good grasp for the language and the words that are used and all that, and then you turn around and we read it in the paper. They might get a little information here, more information today than they get usually. But if it's just a question of money, it's all about the money.
Well, let me put it to you this way: the reason why we determined, and the administration helped us a lot too with the principals, because we asked them for the data.
Yeah.
And what they have are these types of assessments, where it has to do with reading comprehension, reading skills.
Oh, excuse me. Sorry about
reading
that.
skills in terms of time
right
frame.
out. That says doesn't count.
It's not important.
Modern tech, I don't even know. It's probably Dwyer.
No, so no, so basically what it is they have these assessment tools where they can see what kids are doing at certain grade levels. And when we see those kids that are struggling with these new types of data that we can get from them, then we have an interventionist work with that kid, maybe in a small group of other children, and get them back to where they need to be. So it's like I said before, education and the way we teach our children is completely different now, because it's a lot more data driven so that we can see evidence.
If you get to third grade, this is the other thing I always wondered about. It never changes either. You get to third grade, say there's 30 kids in the class, I don't know, say so now you get 4 or 5 slow ones, they have to go to the reading interventionist, okay? So now the teacher's over here with the other 35, reading interventionists over here with the 4 stupid, because Joe Demers is in the reading, he can't read.
Well, you know, I wouldn't put
all
it,
that.
No, I know.
It happens.
That's a worst case scenario, and I know you're being devil's advocate there.
Yeah.
But
it's got to be more secretive than that.
Oh
somehow.
yeah, no, I you know, kids at that age, they're very perceptive, but I think there'll be ways to put it in a place where concerns like that aren't going to be a major determining factor there.
All right, what about this one here? The when you were in school, when did you say 2000?
2003.
2003
was my senior year at Woburn.
So, do you believe that the school year is long enough to get the information into their heads?
You know what, Ed? I think so. I think 180 days
is enough.
Is a good number. You know, when I mean, I've had limited classroom teaching experience when I did my student teaching down in Warwick, Rhode Island.
By the way, this young man has a degree from Providence College in education, so we want to put in history. So he knows this history.
This question is a pretty it's near and dear to me.
All right, softball.
But I think if you look at the standard history textbook, there was a lot of things that they expanded on. There was a lot of areas where they could get a lot more meat about certain historical events. But I trust our teachers within our curriculum framework to come out with and making sure that those kids learn exactly what they need to know about Korea, Desert Storm.
Everything, all these guys,
like that. We're talking newer history now. So, I mean, I have the faith that 180 days gives them enough time. I know at the elementary school levels, some parents probably wish it was 200 days.
Yeah,
but,
right.
At the end of the school year, you kind of get, when I was a senior, it was the senior slide, so to speak. But the kids, it's warm out. They're starting to play after school. And at the end of the school year, I think we're teaching a full schedule.
The attention span is starting to go. As soon as it gets the weather changes,
But I think, I think 180 days right now, I'm content with 180 days. Nationally, or if we wanted to in Massachusetts, I think it would be a very tough get, just because of the finances involved in extending the school year. But
and then the teachers, the finances would be unbelievable.
Definitely worth the debate. I went to a legislative briefing. I got ladybugs all over me.
I know.
Is that a good sign?
Yeah, that's a good sign.
But anyway,
it's a good sign they're around. Never mind.
But I went to a briefing up at the State House where it was a business consortium that put together what they think would be the best type of educational system to prepare those kids to go right into the business world or be prepared for manufacturing jobs and whatnot. And it has to do with a lot of more focus on an extended school year, more opportunities for kids like the VOC, but keeping them local.
Yeah.
So that we can develop our own VOC programs and have a shop teacher or a mechanic teacher or any type of vocational trade here at home. And I know you guys were talking a few weeks ago about the VOC funding.
The VOC, yep. The VOC funding. Well,
I know Paul asked that I come on and explain that.
That's right. So if you want to do that, you can do it. I don't care about it because I think it's too complicated for the ordinary person. I think a guy comes home from work tonight at 4:30, he just takes a shower, has a couple of beers, and he sits down, maybe watches flicking around, and he says, what are those two dopes talking about, And then he might say, okay, but that stuff is too complicated.
The Northeast Metropolitan Vocational School has member communities, there's a handful, Revere,
that's right,
Chelsea, all these folks, Wakefield, and what the funding source used to be was that it was just a tuition rate.
Right.
You paid the tuition rate across the board. Each student cost the same.
Same, right.
Well, about 10, 15 years ago, they came out with a new funding mechanism that was socioeconomic related. Mm-hmm. So if Chelsea had 200 kids that wanted to go,
and we're poor,
they weren't going to charge that school district the same tuition.
Right.
They lowered it based on use.
Yeah.
So if a member district in the regional VOC only sends 3 kids, we're really not benefiting from it.
Not benefiting. I think the VOC, from the children I've seen since it's been open, I don't even know how long that is, there's some pretty talented people come out of there. In the city of Woburn, I know that plumbers, electricians, and those kind of people are very, very well trained. Now, I don't know about whatever the subject is, but I'm sure they're all the same.
Auto body, auto body shops or mechanics.
Unbelievable. Now, but the building's falling down.
Yeah, over time buildings do crumble.
And the other, the
people need to invest in those.
The only I like to say this about that is because when you're teaching plumbing, you're not teaching the same kind of plumbing that was going on 25 years ago. It's all changing.
I mean, there may
the
be
laws
maybe
change.
Different regulations.
Or, so they have to have a workshop so they can a modern workshop so the kid can't come out and work in a 1950 plumbing department. You know what I mean? So that's a big difference. I think people don't understand. A good example too was
brought up at that same city council meeting where the VOC superintendent was here, and he said that they're using automated arms in their mechanics.
Robotics.
So these kids can leave and probably go work for Ford or Toyota, helping put together cars.
I think it's a good idea for the manufacturing process because everybody can't be going to college and becoming this, that, and the other thing. You know what I mean?
Between the military, trades, maybe a 2-year school to start. A lot of kids are starting to shift. Everything's shifting now because the price of college has gone so high that they'd prefer to do 2 years at Middlesex, and then once they get all their cores out of the way, like math, reading, science, history, then they'll transfer into a 4-year type school like Salem State or UMass.
Yep. I was against having resource officers in a school because I didn't want no gun in the school. Mm-hmm. Because, I mean, years ago, A cop used to be 6 feet tall and weigh
Right.
300 pounds. You know,
Sure.
everybody was scared of them. You know, now they were just regular people. So I said, Jesus, these kids are. Now the kids are 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
And weigh,
yeah,
you know what I
yeah.
mean? So I said, if there's going to be a problem, I don't want a big jam to start, and then this guy's got a gun. You know what I mean? Something could happen. But that's a little bit
Well,
over.
I mean,
That's a little bit over the edge, anyway.
I'm supportive of the school resource officers because, as they're called, they're a good resource to have in the schools.
They are.
I mean,
They tell you. They don't tell
that,
us.
No, but that too. But you know, well, that's student privacy too. We
Yeah.
got to maintain student
Yeah.
privacy. But I would rather have some sort of law enforcement person there, not as a security issue,
No.
but more so just having the kids have another outlet. They may not be comfortable telling a counselor something that's going on at home. They may not be comfortable telling a teacher or an administrator that something's going on at home. There's also the ever interloping issues where there might be legal issues going on at home that person might need support. So I think the school resource officer there is good for that, but it's also good for having, you know, awareness for dances, you know, making sure that these kids know
So all
that,
this
you know,
stuff.
be safe when you're out there,
Yeah.
or dating violence, and all sorts of things.
Come on.
You're more important than I am. My cell
Jesus.
phone hasn't rang once.
Who is this? I gotta check who this is. But I think this is all a lot of just a lot of semantics, because is that even a word? Go by. Get up, throw that
Well,
thing over there. Turn it off if you know how.
I don't view a school resource officer as an armed guard in the school.
You don't?
I just think it's a good
I
thing
think
to
when they
have.
changed the name from what they had before, they didn't call it resource officer. They talked about drugs. What was it? It was a drug program. You know,
DARE?
DARE.
Yeah.
That was a little bit different. They went
Sure,
into the
sure,
school and they just explained to the
Well,
kids.
my
it's
biggest
pretty
concern
good
with
to do.
DARE was you can teach someone in kindergarten through 5th grade what drugs are and
Yeah.
to just say no.
Yeah.
But the real issue we're facing now is the kids in the high school and the middle school. There needs to be some sort of drug abuse resistance education there for those kids. And I think the school resource officers do help in that aspect.
Well, the city of Woburn, I mean, the Woburn Police Department, the courthouse especially, they spent a lot of time at the high school
Yep.
doing the
That's
heroin
the
deals.
HEAT program.
Yeah, the HEAT program. So
Yep.
that's pretty good because,
Which
I
is-
mean,
it's a
if
great-
any of those drugs are bad, that's
Great
a
awareness
bad
program
one.
because of the fact that heroin has become so cheap, and
Yeah.
and these drug dealers are starting to cut it with stuff.
Stuff, yeah.
I was at one of the forums that they had up at the high school, and you know the icy hot patches you can
Yeah.
put on your back. Well, they're soaking those in water with the heroin,
Yeah.
so that the analgesic in it
Comes through.
spikes the heroin, and it's a hot dose. And I mean, that was the DA was up there. We had the sheriff's offices have been involved
Yeah.
in awareness too, because that's where you go when you get caught with this stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad I did. I'm just glad they didn't have that stuff when I was a kid, because
It's
we
bad.
we had
Bad
enough
news.
trouble drinking beer when
It's
we weren't
bad news,
supposed
yep.
to. You know what I mean? That was enough problems without all this other stuff. That's another pressure point that the kids have today in school that
Yep.
people don't realize. You know
Yeah,
what
and
I
I
mean?
mean, the number one thing that we talked about at that forum was having parents being aware what to look for, the certain signs to look for to see if your child is using a substance.
My other
like heroin.
complaint is there's a few dopes in there that I like to see removed from the school.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, but they say, Ed, it's cheaper to keep them in school than it is to keep them in jail.
Costs $30,000 a year.
Yeah.
$30,000 a year to incarcerate somebody, and $10,000 a year to treat them, and roughly $10,000 a year to educate the kid.
But sometimes you can't. It's impossible. I got my daughter's trying to get into Dartmouth, Mr. Demers.
Yeah.
She's in the what do they call it? High classes.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden these dopes come in. They get their hat on. Teachers take your hat off. Kid says no. Back and forth. Blah blah blah. Takes 5, 6, 7 minutes before he finally gets off to Finnegan's office or McGuire or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean,
and now the kids don't.
it is a disruption, and for the most part, with the new discipline policies that's been developed over time, they're kind of putting students in what's called in-house suspension, where they
Yeah.
take them out of the classroom.
We
They're
had
still
that,
required
too.
to do the same work,
Yeah.
but they're taken out of the classroom if they're being disrupted.
Yeah. I don't know if that works either.
But I mean, going back to the substance abuse stuff too, Ed, it's a disease.
It's a disease,
It's a
yeah. There's no
disease.
yeah,
So
there's no
what-
question about that.
Why would you lock somebody up for having the flu?
Yeah.
It's a disease. So now the drug dealers we need to be locking up. The people that are dealing it to these kids around here, those are the people that deserve to be locked up. But the kids who get caught hooked on it, We need to get them treatment.
I'm switching to the other opposite side. I'm going for the libertarian idea. Legalize it all. It takes the money out. It takes the money out of it.
Well,
now you turn around and you say there's going to be a certain amount of addiction.
What, though? Think about it this way: they legalize it, it becomes a lesser dose. There's still going to be doses on the street that are going to be.
I know that, but if the Commonwealth, if the federal government really wants to get the drug law, it's never going to happen. It's like the marijuana dispensaries the states got going now. They're never going to work because these guys will sell the stuff cheaper on the street. Well, it's easier to get.
One of the major things that we really haven't been talking about in terms of our immigration problems and on the border is that the drugs are coming over the border.
Yep.
That's a major security issue right there. And that's why the war on drugs has failed, because we've been paying these people not to grow one thing and they've started to grow another.
I know. But the demand is here. Demand is here. Oh, it's everywhere. I know that, but I mean, you can't grow it. I mean, you can't grow it, so that's where they're going to bring it.
Once these kids are addicted, the demand
I think it was wonderful that Congressman Delahunt didn't get his 3 stores for the dispensaries.
Yeah. You thought that was fishy too, huh?
Jeez, what are those guys? They live in a glass cage somewhere. You know what I mean?
You're in public service for the wrong reason if you want to profit for it.
Yeah. He was going to profit a little bit too, but anyway, that's wonderful. Jesus. But anyway, the school. What do you think? Are we in good shape? You don't want to say where they're going to build a new school.
I don't know yet. We don't know yet. We won't know until September.
That's about a lousy answer I've ever heard.
No,
Come on.
What
do you mean you don't know? They already said they're not going to build it at the Wyman School. They're not going to build it at the Hurl School.
The Wyman School site is nearly impossible.
The Mormon church is never going to be built. There's not enough land.
The Hurl is going to be difficult because of the fact that we need to use a swing space.
That's 2 gone out of 4.
Okay. So now it's the Spence Farm site.
That's right.
And the Mormon church site.
The Mormon church, forget that.
My personal preference would be the Mormon church site.
It isn't going to go there. Scott Galvin is never going to buy a piece of property with all the property the city owns.
We will see.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of it going on the Spence Farm site.
No, why? Why? We got too much invested there?
There was too much invested in the neighbors and everybody coming around with a meals tax to put that there. So personally, I wouldn't put it there. I would prefer the Mormon site. Yeah. If you ask me my personal opinion.
I think that it has to go on the farmers market site because the mayor's got to make a decision for 40,000 people, not 90 or 100 to get water.
It's important too to realize that the reason why we had to pick 4 sites was the Mass School Building Authority requires you to have that.
Yeah.
See the options, and then if they don't like our choice, they can recommend one of the other options with the funding.
Yeah, they're never going to do that either.
We'll see.
All of those. We paid this guy Denisco.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yep.
I'm sure he's a nice guy, and his daughter is there, and everything else. Come in here, pay him $500,000 to give us all this information. I would have done it for half the money, and I already would have told them where the school's going to go. And
that's not the MSBA.
No, I know it because
if you want to get 50%.
I know it. How do you get? See, anytime you take their money.
Your idea just cost the taxpayers of Woburn money.
Yeah, because we get it and then we pay it out to them. We don't get to keep it. It's just something that's
50%
all that.
Yeah, a big idea.
Yeah, I know it's a big idea. It's always going to send a lot of trouble too. A lot of trouble because people will say we want to get the money. With the money comes a lot of strings on there to attach. So sometimes you say,
you look at the other schools we've built. I think the people of Woburn would tell you it's been worth it.
Yeah, what's our debt? How much debt are we? We're in a lot of debt.
We are in a lot of debt.
Until year 2002.
But that's how you keep everything affordable.
All right.
That's how you don't raise your taxes on everybody.
Just sit tight now for a couple of minutes while I do this here, so the phone don't ring again. Good grief. I was so excited about my 300th program that I forgot to turn the phone off. How's that sound?
There you go.
All right. All right, what's on here? Mrs. Ahern left us there. Downtown parking. We kicked that around a lot, and I'm sure once they decide to build a garage, but then there was some articles in the Globe over the weekend that said that This building of garages is not the answer either. So I don't know whether it's just get rid of the cars.
There was actually in the House budget, Rep. Dwyer joined with the rep from Waltham to get $100,000 grants for cities that have employment over 35,000 people during the day, like Woburn, to do a parking study for the city to see what options we have already.
Study. We're in the wrong business. We should be in the study business.
Study guys.
I'm going to get a card. It's going to say consultant. That's all. Any subject you want, I'll talk about it. I'll say, what's your problem? They say, okay, I'll fix it for you. If we have any production problems, I just call these kids in and say,
you go.
What's the problem? Here's your answers right here. Bedford Road was hit by a storm. Do we have a clip on that?
Yep.
All right, when do you want to do it? Right now? Or in a minute? Well, tell me when she's going to put it on. We saw Brian's video. Now Brian, of course, is the boss up at the station, and he takes a camera. He has a camera wrapped around his head every minute, so anytime he sees anything exciting, he takes pictures. And these pictures came right from his new front door. Okay, abandoned account, security manager, supplement the new guidelines. What about fingerprinting? Is that going to happen?
Fingerprinting, yeah, it was a mandate that the teachers have to be fingerprinted so that we can run background checks through a national database. Right now we only do Corey, which is a state database. So if somebody may have done something inappropriate out of state, we want to know. We want to know what our kids are.
It's another thing. I grew up.
Who's teaching our kids?
When
Not
I
that
grew up,
we have any assumptions.
No, I know.
We want to know.
Yeah, we want to know because when I was in school, the war was going on, and so they fingerprinted everybody in case the Japs came and the Germans came and abducted me. They'd be able to tell who I was, if I got shipped to Germany or someplace.
Oh, yeah?
So I already had my fingerprints taken. They probably threw all that stuff away. Why would you keep it? Father Carl's leaving St. Anthony's. Great guy. Good luck, Father. I wish we had more time to talk about him, but we don't today. Maybe we'll do it some other day. New Hurl Wyman, neighbors with strong objections. We already killed that. I've had Vincent Rizzo.
Vince Grillo.
Vince, yeah. He's a nice guy.
Yeah, very nice guy.
Comes in three or four times.
I've had numerous.
The problem he has is that his song is getting old now. They say that they had a promise.
I've had numerous people from that group call me to convey their concerns. I think it's important to take their concerns because they were told that it was going to be for open usage of a farm, and the meals tax was to go there. So I think they have valid concerns to be raised.
Yeah. I think they have concerns because I think the flooding problems up there are concerns. That's a big issue. And we'll see what's going to happen over there because, that's another issue that maybe DEP probably should have gone into a long time ago because, the whole watershed from Wilmington, Tewksbury, the whole thing, that's all coming down through there.
Yeah, no, and
with Dunkin' Donuts.
It really has to do a lot with the old Middlesex Canal area too. So
and when the Dunkin' Donuts, remember when he opened on Wynn Street, the Dunkin' Donuts, you had to buy the lot next door because it was all flooding. Yeah. And in behind there, it's a big swamp, so it's pretty awful.
But yeah, no, they're flooding concerns, but also the impact on the neighborhood too. I mean, they expect that to be open space. So
we got to get that water down there to the ponds somehow. At least 4 schools, local students will get a free breakfast. I don't know why we got to feed them all breakfast.
What's that?
Can't we feed them all breakfast in all the schools?
It depends upon the socioeconomic need.
Of the school?
Of the school district.
So we got 4 schools in Woburn. So what are we going to say?
4 schools in Woburn that have enough people where we provide a free breakfast.
And we don't know what schools they are?
Not off the top of my head.
No.
I don't.
Shamrock would have to be one, surrounded
Shamrock's
by.
a Title I school, so
Yeah.
they'd be getting it.
Yeah, they'd have to because I mean they're surrounded by.
Yeah, it depends upon the need. It really
Yeah.
does. It depends upon the need and the socioeconomic makeup of the schools.
I think the high school should have it. They have some
They do.
free breakfast.
Yep, they have
Yeah.
reduced lunch and breakfast.
I think they should invite the old people from the housing over and say, if you want to have, if you're hungry, come over and have breakfast. You know what I mean?
Wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. You know, and I think if I also thought in the elementary schools, some of them old age, the men are all dead anyway. You know, the buildings are full of old women, not old women, but older,
Yeah, I wouldn't say
elderly
old
women. I know elderly women, but I don't see why they can't find a way for them to incorporate it into the schools, just to
Yeah, I mean,
help
something,
out.
something similar to the senior tax work-off program. I mean, that
Yeah.
gets a lot of senior folks
Yeah.
really engaged in the community.
Or
right?
just to go over there and watch them while recess
Yeah,
or something while
yeah.
the teachers are having
Sure.
lunch or something.
Yeah, well,
like
I mean,
that.
there's
They must
actually a
have
great
that.
event that the senior center has. It's the intergenerational event where seniors can bring their grandkids
Good
up
job.
or
That's
their
good,
children
yeah.
up, and you know, they have a little function for them.
Sea Dog closed. That's another one. Lauren, we closed the Sea Dog. We went there and did it for
You got like a black thumb in the kitchen
Yeah.
there, huh?
Yeah, we didn't have anything to do with Fridays, but as soon as we went to Nichols Grill, they, they tipped over.
Yeah.
And now Sea Dog, I'm surprised. I thought they'd wait till Butch and Dave's was where they made
Yeah,
that place.
I guess they applied for, from what I've read, they've applied for bankruptcy. But I'm hearing through the grapevine that their plan is to return in some capacity
Really?
with the same group. It's just going to take a little bit of
time.
They're going to do some renovations, I guess.
Yeah. I hope so. I think maybe they'll get a few leftovers from,
Well,
from
they're going
Butch
to have
and
to
Joe's. or
they're going to
whatever.
have to compete with Dave and Buster's across the street.
Yeah, but I mean, so many people go to Dave and Buster, they get a little bored. Let's go across the
Yeah,
street and have
true,
something to eat. You
true,
know what I
yeah.
mean?
It's just got to be a type of a restaurant that caters to the wants and
And
needs
feeds
of the city
us.
of Woburn.
And they have to feed us, of course.
Well, hey,
That's
bring me
correct.
along for that show. if you-
You could be the mystery guest.
Yeah.
I listen to I have a lot of friends that want to be
Mystery
the
judge
mystery
on the
guest.
taste test.
But anyway, Joe Demers is a personal friend of mine. I've only known him a short period of time. And I'm sure he's going to watch out for the education of the children of the city of Woburn. And we're very happy to talk to him today. And we're going to make it a point to talk to him every periodically and see what's going on.
Thanks, Ed.
Thanks for coming in, Joe.
Thanks for having me.
So, that's it from the shores of Horn Pond this week. Thank you very much for watching. Next time.